The central nervous system, the cerebellum. The cerebellum is a nerve center that regulates motor function, in the broadest sense, movement, posture, and balance. It receives information from all parts of the central nervous system, spinal cord, brainstem, brain. It processes this information to provide the programs that drive movement, with a chronological organization and somatotopic organization, temporal spatial organization. It thus regulates muscle activities involved in voluntary whole-body movement, muscle activities that help maintain good posture, reflex muscle activities involved in maintaining balance. Location of the cerebellum. It is located in the posterior cranial fossa, or cerebellar fossa, of the skull. Behind the brainstem, bounded superiorly by the tentorium cerebelli and inferiorly by the occipital squama. It is situated beneath a thick fibrous membrane attached to the dura mater and known as the tentorium cerebelli. It is itself covered by the three classic meninges. It is surrounded by the subarachnoid space, which contains cerebrospinal fluid. Surrounding the cerebellum, this space forms larger cavities known as cisterns. Dimensions: weight 140–150 g diameter, transverse 8–10 cm vertical, 6–7 cm sagittal, 5–6 cm. Morphology: it has three sides. Superior surface corresponds to the tentorium of the cerebellum. Underside rests on the occipital cerebellar fossae. Anterior surface facing the posterior surface of the brainstem, to which it is connected by the cerebellar peduncles. External configuration. The cerebellum has a lamellar, butterfly-shaped appearance and comprises three lobes, best seen in a superior view. The vermis, an elongated central projection extending from front to back. The cerebellar hemispheres, there are two, situated on either side of the vermis. The surface of the cerebellum is crisscrossed by a large number of sulci running transversely across the vermis and the cerebellar hemispheres. These sulci divide the cerebellum into lobes, lobules, laminae, and lamella. Structure of the cerebellum. The cerebellum is made up of gray matter and white matter. Of gray matter, it is distributed across two areas: the surface of the cerebellum in the form of a cerebellar cortex. Inside in the form of central gray nuclei, the dentate nucleus, the roof nucleus, the globulus and the embolus. B. White matter. It is situated around the basal ganglia, beneath the cortex. Functional sectors. The cerebellum is divided into three distinct regions, each of which is responsible for different functions, namely the Archiocerebellum, this is the center of balance and the concept of gravity. Paleocerebellum, it helps regulate the muscular activities involved in maintaining posture by adjusting muscle tone. Neocerebellum, it regulates and coordinates movement. This functional segmentation is modeled on embryonic development. The brainstem. This is the part of the neural axis situated above the spinal cord, below the brain and in front of the cerebellum, in the center of the posterior cranial fossa. The brainstem is an enlarged section of the neural axis. It consists of three parts which are, from bottom to top, the medulla oblongata, spinal bulb, the varolae bridge, annular protrusion, midbrain, cerebral peduncles. The medulla oblongata, its anatomy resembles that of the spinal cord, which is situated just below it. The annular protrusion or bridge, it takes the form of a large anterior transverse ridge. The cerebral peduncles or midbrain, these are two masses that diverge and each extend towards one cerebral hemisphere, delimiting a triangular space, the fourth ventricle. The fourth ventricle, it is a rhomboid cavity with a long longitudinal axis. It is situated on the posterior surface of the brainstem. It forms part of the ventricular system, which contains the intracerebral cerebrospinal fluid. Structure of the brainstem. The brainstem consists of cell bodies that form the gray matter and nerve fibers that form the white matter. White matter, myelinated fibers that act as a link between the spinal cord and higher structures. Gray matter, reflex activities, respiratory control center, cardiovascular center, swallowing and vomiting, auditory and visual reflexes. The emergence of the cranial nerves. The brainstem is the point of origin for almost all the cranial nerves, with the exception of two, the optic nerve 2 and the olfactory nerve I, which emerge from the brain. At the bulbar level, N ground hypogloss, 12 N spinal 11 vagus nerve, or vagus X 9 pharyngeal glossal arches, external oculomotor nerve, 6 N facial 7 auditory, or cochleovestibular 8. At the level of the protuberant layer, N triplet. At the midbrain level, common oculomotor nerve 3 pathetic N4. Spinal cord. The spinal cord is the caudal part of the central nervous system, following on from the brainstem. It is contained within the spinal canal, which is bounded by the vertebrae. Shorter than the spine, it ends at the level of the second lumbar vertebra, L2. It gives rise to nerve roots that emerge from the spinal canal and go on to form the various nerves, 8 cervical roots, 12 dorsal roots, 5 lumbar nerve roots, 5 sacred roots. Its function is to transmit nerve signals between the brain and the rest of the body, as well as to control certain reflexes. It is divided into two sections: the ascending pathway for sensory information to the brain, the descending pathway for motor information to the muscles. General characteristics. The spinal cord is a whitish cylindrical tube with vertical grooves running along its length. Along the medulla, 2 bulges can be seen. A cervical bulge from which the nerves that innervate the upper limbs emerge. A lumbar bulge for the nerves that supply the lower limbs. It does not occupy the entire spinal canal, but ends at the L1 vertebra, and then forms the conus medullaris. From here emerge all the lower lumbar and sacral nerve roots, which merge and intermingle to form what is known as the cauda equina, phylum terminale. Along the entire length of the spinal cord, 31 anterior nerve roots and 31 posterior nerve roots emerge on either side, 8 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, 5 sacral, 1 coccygeal. The anterior root is motor. The posterior root is sensory, and contains a swelling known as the spinal ganglion, formed by the cell bodies of sensory neurons. At each level, the anterior root and the posterior root join to enter the foramina on either side of the spinal canal and form a spinal nerve. Each spinal nerve is therefore mixed, that is to say, both sensory, containing sensory neurons, and motor, containing motor neurons. Like the brain, the spinal cord is protected and covered by the meninges, with cerebrospinal fluid circulating in the subarachnoid space. Lumbar puncture, in cross-section, 2 distinct regions can be identified. White matter, located on the periphery, which contains the axons of sensory neurons and motor neurons, and forms the pathway for the major motor and sensory tracts. Gray matter, in the shape of a butterfly in the center, which consists of the cell bodies of the neurons.